My parents refused to care for my newborn twins during my surgery, and their faces when Grandpa finally spoke were priceless. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Rin. I had just given birth to twins when doctors told me I needed emergency surgery. I was scared and weak, so I called my parents, Marla and Dean. I thought they would help. Instead, they said they were too busy and told me to figure it out myself. Their words hurt more than the pain in my body. I cried quietly in the hospital, feeling abandoned. Grandpa Hale heard everything. He didn't argue. He just listened. Later, when my parents acted proud in front of others, Grandpa calmly spoke the truth. The room went silent. For the first time, my parents had nothing to say. I always believed blood meant protection. Growing up, I was taught that parents never turn away when their child is breaking. So when fear surrounded me and everything felt uncertain, my first thought was Marla and Dean. I truly believed they would stand beside me when I needed them most. I imagined warmth, reassurance, and simple kindness. Instead, their reaction felt distant and sharp. There was no concern in their voices, no pause to understand my situation. They spoke as if I were asking for a favor, not reaching out during a serious moment. Each sentence felt heavy, like a door closing slowly in front of me. I tried explaining how important this moment was, hoping something would change. Nothing did. That silence on the call told me everything. In that moment, I realized trust can break quietly, without shouting or anger. The people I depended on most chose comfort over compassion, leaving me stunned and deeply hurt. When I explained what I needed, the answer came fast and firm. There was no discussion, no care, just a clear line drawn. They made it sound like my situation was an inconvenience, something I created on my own. I felt my chest tighten as they listed reasons, each one colder than the last. What hurt more was the comparison that followed. They reminded me how they always stepped in for my brother without hesitation. His needs were never questioned. His struggles were always urgent. Mine, however, were treated as optional. That difference had existed for years, but I never wanted to accept it. Hearing it so clearly shattered something inside me. I realized this moment was not about timing or effort. It was about who mattered more. Standing there, I understood that I had been asking from people who had already chosen sides long ago. Recovery became a lonely battle. Once the procedure ended, the room felt too quiet, filled only with machines and long hours of waiting. I lay there thinking about how quickly everything had fallen apart. There were moments when fear crept in, especially during the nights when sleep refused to come. I had never felt so small or exposed. Every movement reminded me that I was facing this chapter alone. There were no familiar faces walking through the door, no gentle check-ins, no comfort. I learned how heavy disappointment can feel when it settles in your chest and refuses to leave. Tears came without warning, not from pain, but from the weight of being dismissed when it mattered most. As days passed, strength returned slowly, but the emotional wound stayed fresh. What hurt deepest was knowing this absence was a choice. That realization changed how I viewed love, loyalty, and the meaning of family forever. Hale rarely spoke unless words truly mattered. From a distance, he watched patterns form. Whenever questions came up, Marla and Dean shifted topics, delayed replies, or suddenly became unavailable. Their reasons changed each time, yet the outcome stayed the same. Absence wrapped in polite excuses. Hale noticed how quickly they protected their comfort. Small tasks became burdens. Simple requests turned into obligations they claimed they could not carry. Their voices sounded practiced, as if they had rehearsed these responses long before this moment arrived. Nothing escaped his attention. Years of living had trained him to read what people avoided more than what they said. Each excuse added another mark to a quiet record he kept in his mind. He never interrupted or confronted them. He simply observed, storing every detail. While others overlooked these signs, Hale understood exactly what was happening. Silence, in his eyes, spoke louder than promises ever could. Numbers began stacking up, each notice heavier than the last. Paperwork arrived regularly, reminding me how fragile stability can be. Pressure followed me everywhere, tightening with every decision I had to make alone. Still, I kept my mouth shut. Asking again felt like surrender, and I refused to lower myself for people who already turned away. I focused on handling things quietly, step by step, even when exhaustion crept in. Pride became my shield. I chose composure instead of desperation, even though it cost me comfort. That restraint created distance, thick and uncomfortable, filling every shared space with unspoken weight. Others sensed something brewing beneath the surface. Conversations felt stiff. Smiles lacked warmth. No one addressed the strain directly, yet it hovered between us, undeniable. My silence was not weakness, it was control. Each unanswered question, each withheld plea, added pressure. Eventually, something had to give. Everyone could feel it, even if no one dared to say it out loud. The house buzzed with laughter and chatter, but beneath the noise, I could feel the tension slicing through the air. Marla and Dean moved around with practiced smiles, greeting everyone warmly, handing out compliments, and nodding as if they were the perfect parents. Their gestures were flawless, rehearsed, and clearly meant to impress the crowd. No one would suspect the truth behind their polished demeanor. They spoke in cheerful tones, asked about trivial matters, and avoided anything serious. Every movement, every word, seemed designed to hide their earlier refusal and the discomfort they had caused. Watching them pretend was surreal. Their pride was loud, their care superficial, yet they expected admiration for it. The contrast between the warmth they displayed publicly and the coldness they showed privately was unbearable. It stung deeply, yet I stayed quiet, letting the act unfold, knowing that appearances could only carry them so far. The room fell silent when Hale cleared his throat. His voice was steady, carrying neither anger nor haste, but every word cut sharper than any outburst could. He spoke slowly, recounting instances everyone had overlooked, moments when care was withheld, when favoritism shaped choices, when promises were broken without remorse. He didn't accuse loudly or beg for attention. Instead, he stated facts, pointing out how their decisions left me struggling, unsupported, and unseen. Each detail he shared revealed patterns of neglect and partiality that had gone unnoticed for years. The quiet authority in his tone made it impossible to argue, impossible to shrug off. Faces that had seemed confident moments before shifted under his gaze. Pride wavered, smiles faltered, and excuses vanished. Hale's words were not just observation, they were revelation. At that moment, the truth landed firmly, undeniable, and finally, the imbalance in our family was exposed for all to see. Hale's eyes swept the room, calm but firm, and he began to speak again. This time, his words carried a weight that no one could ignore. He announced that from now on, support and inheritance would be given to those who had shown true care, those who stood by family in times of need, not to those who demanded or expected it. He described clearly how actions, not words or appearances, determined trust and responsibility. Years of favoritism and empty gestures could no longer dictate outcomes. Those who had turned away, who had chosen comfort over compassion, would receive nothing beyond what they earned honestly. A stunned hush filled the space. Faces froze, eyes widened, and whispered protests died before forming. Hale's decision was final. For the first time, loyalty and genuine love were recognized above entitlement, shifting the family balance in a way that could not be undone. I watched quietly as Marla and Dean's composed masks shattered. Their confident postures slumped, voices faltered, and the certainty they carried for years evaporated in an instant. The room that once seemed controlled by their pride now reflected their panic and regret. It was strange to feel relief alongside the sting of their absence. No one rushed to defend them, no one could undo the truth Hale had revealed. I finally understood that betrayal carries its own weight, and those who choose selfishness eventually meet its consequences. As the tension settled, I felt a shift inside myself. A sense of freedom emerged, subtle but undeniable. I no longer needed their approval, their participation, or their affection to move forward. Healing started quietly, in the spaces they had abandoned, and for the first time, I realized strength grows most where love is real, not demanded. Do you think I did the right thing by standing my ground, or should I have given them another chance? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and hit the bell for more stories like this.